we should not see it as a strategic realignment just because the Trump administration, particularly Trump 2.0, does not look at foreign policy through strategic lenses. Everything is transactional in the most rigid sense, not only transactional, but commercial. And so I think that the developments that you just ticked off represent what I would argue as cases where Pakistan has successfully been able to pitch itself as a partner to the US on the types of issues that the US is interested in pursuing, not just in Pakistan, but globally around the world. So, Pakistan has, essentially presented itself as a partner that could provide things, can provide deals and business opportunities to the US when it comes to things like critical minerals and oil and crypto and so on. And so, I think that with this Trump administration, when it comes to its diplomacy, it's not about strategic partnerships. It's not even about strategic convergences. It's about what offers are out there that can be taken advantage of. And Pakistan has been able to offer many attractive opportunities that the administration has been very keen to pursue. So, in that sense, I think this is all very transactional. I would also argue that, President Trump is very mercurial, he's very unpredictable, and even though he seems to be inclined to engage with Pakistan in these various areas, he may lose interest, quite frankly. I mean, all of these issues we're talking about, crypto, critical minerals, oil development, even counterterrorism for that matter, there's a lot of obstacles on these fronts, right? The critical minerals are mostly located in areas that are very vulnerable to terrorism. Crypto is very much a work in progress in Pakistan. Oil development. We don't know if these probable oil reserves in Pakistan are actually there. A very small percentage of them have been confirmed. And with counterterrorism, I think that the U.S.'s interest in engaging with Pakistan on counterterrorism is very limited. It's really limited to very narrowly focused goals, such as hoping that Pakistan will help the U.S. Monitor and track down and apprehend terrorists, mainly Islamic State Khorasan terrorists that threaten or target the U.S. or U.S. interests. So even though we're experiencing this unexpected renaissance in U.S.-Pakistan ties, I'm not sure how substantive it will be over time. And I would like to see a stronger US-Pakistan partnership, but I think we're more likely to see that if you have cooperation in areas that actually offer opportunities for long-term substantive collaborations. It's very helpful to Pakistan in many ways. One is that Islamabad has long claimed that it doesn't want to be seen as being in the Chinese camp, that it truly wants to balance its ties with the US and China. And, as we've seen the US-Pakistan relationship improve in recent weeks, and we've seen all this engagement, I think that validates a position, a stance taken publicly and frequently by Islamabad about wanting to balance its ties with the US and China, a position that many in Washington have been skeptical about, because there's a view here that Pakistan is essentially in China's camp, and its relationship with the US is never really, at least in the immediate term or even the longer term, is not going to amount to much on substantive levels. But now it looks like Pakistan does have this opportunity to truly pursue a balanced set of relationships with the US and with China. Beyond that, clearly, any type of economic partnership with the US is critical for Pakistan, given that the US is such an important trade partner. It is the top destination for Pakistani exports. And any opportunities to build on that, to pursue something beyond Pakistan sending textile exports to the US. This broader focus on commercial ties, whether that could entail forays into critical minerals or crypto energy, that clearly could bode well for Pakistan and its economy, which has stabilized in a macroeconomic context, but still remains quite vulnerable for structural reasons, and could really benefit from an ability to diversify its sources of trade partners. And if Pakistan has an opportunity to really ramp up commercial engagements with the US, all the better. But, there is that obstacle posed by the reciprocal tariffs, right? I mean, the US did get an oil deal with Pakistan, but Pakistan was hit with with reciprocal tariffs. And that'll be an immediate term challenge to navigate. And I suspect that one of the more major objectives of Pakistani policymakers in the immediate term is to continue talks with the US to try to reach an accord that lowers those tariffs. And given that the relationship is in such a good place right now, that could hopefully help the talks. If you've got a positive, warm mood pervading the negotiating room, that could hopefully help the talks advance. Trump and his administration have not really made clear what their actual policy is toward China. I mean, yes, there is this economic competition between the US and China that Trump seems to want to intensify, but Trump has also signaled his desire to partner with China, and specifically partner with President Xi to promote peace and stability around the world. So, in that sense, that could provide, again, opportunities. That's assuming that Pakistan continues to pursue its alliance with China, which it clearly will, that will not necessarily upset Washington as much as it might if the nature of U.S.-China competition and the nature of broader relations between the U.S. and China were more hostile at the moment, which we're not. I mean, honestly, to be very honest, I would argue that the mood pervading U.S.-China relations is not as dark as the mood pervading U.S.-India relations at the moment. China not getting as hit by as many tariffs from the U.S. as India has been to this point. So I think all this all benefits Pakistan, and it can help again advance its goal of engaging in balanced relations with both Beijing and Washington. This is an important point because it's been a striking amount of high-level engagements that Pakistan has been pursuing with Iran, both before the Iran-Israel conflict and after. Of course, Iran's president has just been in Pakistan this week, but then you go back to what happened in the days before the conflict. You had Pakistan's army chief and prime minister and other senior officials in Iran meeting with interlocutors on high levels. Now, some of those interlocutors that Pakistani officials met with were killed in the conflict with Israel, but still, that's important. And this is clearly something that President Trump would have discussed with Field Marshal Munir during their lunch. And I think that this is also one reason why the U.S. is inclined to deepen ties with Pakistan. It sees Pakistan as a useful interlocutor vis-a-vis Iran. Now, what in terms of what Pakistan could do, that's unclear. Clearly, Pakistan has a very workable, good, friendly relationship with Iran, but it has a much closer and deeper relationship with the Arab Gulf states, particularly Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Qatar. So I'm not sure that Pakistan would want to go too far in terms of what it would be willing to do with Iran, but I think that perhaps from the U.S. perspective, the hope is that these Pakistani engagements with Iran could try to send a message of restraint that the Middle East is extremely tense and indeed conflicted at the moment, given the ongoing war in Gaza, and that it makes sense for Tehran, it makes sense for the interests of Tehran, as well as for the interests of Islamabad and other countries in the broader region, to essentially back away and try to avoid provocations and escalations. And that perhaps could entail trying to impart a message to Iran that now is not necessarily the time to be encouraging proxies like Hezbollah and the Houthis and others, including Hamas, for that matter, to try to stage further provocations. I'm not sure if Pakistan would be willing to make that type of statement to Iran because it could be perceived as pro-Israel or something that would benefit Israel. But I do think that message of restraint, the importance of restraint, is one that we could expect, and hopefully one that a message that Pakistan would deliver to Iran in these continuing high-level engagements.